Our next candidate up is Julie Farrell, running for election of selectman.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Julie Farrell. I'm running for the position on the Board of Selectmen. It seems like I was just here at Camelot recently at a different candidate night, and that is true. I was here last May, and I won that election, and I'm here again. I would like to thank the Royers for hosting this event, and I would like to thank this audience for coming out and taking time out of your busy lives to attend. It is important. You are important to engage, to come to these events, to find out for yourself. Whatever you see and read in the paper is a very small part of what actually transpires. I think having the Board of Selectmen meetings on TV has enabled people to watch from home, as Patrick has stated that he does, even though he throws things at his TV, to get more background into the decisions that are made by the board. I have called Templeton my home for the past 30 years. My husband Pete and I built a home and we raised our family here. Our 3 kids have all grown up and are gainfully employed as of today. Politically, I've been a candidate for school committee 4 times, a light and water commissioner once, and this is my 4th campaign for a seat on the Board of Selectmen. My interest in politics began when my children started school. I was active in PTO at Baldwin Elementary School. Does anyone remember the ball race? Raise your hand if you remember the ball race. Okay. I had a great time. It was fun. Suna Braga and I helped to get that fundraiser started, and it lasted for quite a few years. I transitioned from PTO and school council to run for a seat on school committee. I was successful my first time out, even though my name did not appear on the ballot in Phillipston, which is kind of strange. Before I ran for a seat on school committee, I asked my husband to run for sewer commissioner. Does anyone in this room remember the noxious odor that permeated the town in the fall of 1993? You could smell the odor through closed doors and windows. It made my kids nauseous and gave me a pounding headache in the middle of the night. Nothing wakes me up in the middle of the night. That odor came from the wastewater treatment plant. That odor was caused by acrylonitrile shipped into town from Pioneer Plastics in Auburn, Maine. American Tissue Mills was running the treatment plant at that time. American Tissue was importing all types of toxic leachate into town for treatment. They were keeping all of the profits from that for themselves. I asked my husband to run for sewer commissioner in order to protect the townspeople from being poisoned again. He was able to accomplish that and much more in the 18 years he served as a sewer commissioner. Raise your hand if you remember the plans for an asphalt plant in Templeton. Anyone remember that? Yeah. Keep your hand up if you remember the dump. Remember the people who worked tirelessly to gather signatures to have a special town meeting to change town bylaws back so that we would not have out-of-town trash anymore. Remember that?
Oh, I just wrote that.
Right. To prevent the town of Templeton from becoming the largest seething pile of crap on the eastern seaboard. Remember TCAT. It was not the best acronym, but it worked. The first time I ran for school committee, my father-in-law was also a school committee member, and I learned a lot from him. One phrase I picked up from him was polishing a turd. Another was a fart in a whirlwind. We'll go into those definitions later. One of the most important lessons that I learned was that he referred to as a sacred trust. By that, he meant being an elected official was an awesome responsibility. What the heck does that mean? To me, it means that as an elected official, I'm entrusted to act on matters without self-interest, to try to do the most good for the most people. That service on the board is service to the community, not service for personal or political benefit. To have high standards and expectations when dealing with public matters and public money. This past weekend, I attended the Mass Municipal Association annual meeting in Boston. I've attended this conference in the past. I always learn something from attending. On Friday, I attended a very timely session entitled Code of conduct. Why can't we just get along? They provided sample statements of ethics and codes of conduct from other cities and towns. Raise your hand if you would think there may have been 10 people in this room. Do you think there were 10 people in the room at the session? No? Okay. This room was packed, okay? It was standing room only. These are selectmen, city councilors, mayors, managers, town clerks. This conference in Boston, and this one session was standing room only. There appears to be no lack of incivility in politics across the state. In Templeton, we have come to a crossroad. Albert Einstein once said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. In Templeton, we're still experiencing the effects of the recession. We have a record number of foreclosures and abandoned homes, loss of business and industry, an uncertain economic future. As a town, we use every cent of free cash to balance our budget. For this fiscal year, the one we're in now, we voted to take $180,000 out of stabilization to pay for our bill for Worcester County retirement. As a town, we cannot keep up these practices. We will end up bankrupt and in receivership. End the line. If we maintain the status quo, what we are doing now, our current fiscal policies, our current budgeting practices, using every penny that comes in, we will be in receivership. End of story. We have structural deficits built into our budget. They need to be addressed. We cannot keep doing things the same way to address those problems. We can go out and ask for overrides. Everyone I know is strapped. I work in a school district. I'm a teacher. I don't work in this school district. I teach kids who go back to homes that do not have enough food, they do not have enough heat. And then we go and ask their parents, if they're lucky enough to still be in their home and not homeless, to raise their taxes for overrides. We need to take a different approach. We need to come together as a town. We need to work as a board. We need to figure out what are the core services that we need to deliver to our townspeople, our taxpayers. What are they? Focus on those and build a plan so that we can recover and start saving. This year, we have a budget of $13.5 million. We have $40,000 in stabilization to back up that $13.5 million budget. That's not a good situation, people. The voters in Templeton have a clear choice in this election. I've worked for years to implement a change in town council. I believe change in town council will allow access to legal services by boards, committees, and commissions so they can get their legal questions answered. As we have heard in the past, a number of boards, committees, and commissions had very limited access to our very expensive legal counsel, Copeland and Page. We now have a flat fee with our town council, Blattman, Browski, and Mead. We have hired a council for labor, and we have a tax title council as well. When you look at the amount of money that we have spent in the past, and I believe we do need to look at those historical trends to plan for the future. We need to look at the past, figure out what worked in the past, what didn't work in the past, in order to move forward in the future. I believe I am the most qualified candidate for the Board of Selectmen. I hope you will support me on February 6th. I hope you vote no and vote below. Vote against the recall of Julie Farrell, and then vote for Julie Farrell. Thank you.
Julie is open for questions. Sir?
Julie, I read in the paper all the time, you're in it for only personal gains. What kind of personal gains are you supposed to be getting out of all this? Something publicized all the time, you're only in it for personal gains. Tell me.
Well, on my website, the truth is out there, templeton.com, I believe I addressed that issue. I've gained about 30 pounds since becoming a selectman, and my hair's a lot more gray. All right, that's my personal gain right there. Okay? You're welcome.
Any other questions? Mr. Columbus?
Yeah, Julie, you mentioned the hiring the new town council and the labor council and the tax title firm. How's that worked out, that hiring 3 law firms to replace one that did all 3 of those? Is the town saving any money?
I believe that when we get to the end of this fiscal year, we will find out that we have saved money.
Well, if that's the case, we're only going to be able to spend about $2,000 more between now and the end of the fiscal year. Because right now, you're $1,000 less than what Copeland and Page, we spent on Copeland and Page all last year.
Okay. We disagree on that.
Well, like figures right here.
No, there we go.
True that Copeland Page get paid to watch the foreclosure of the mill that wasn't actually in foreclosure and they got paid for that?
Yes, we did pay Copeland and Page to keep track of a bankruptcy case with American Tissue Mills. American Tissue Mills went bankrupt. There were a number of subsidiaries and divisions of American Tissue Mills, and Copeland and Page protected the town's interests for a number of years, and we were not a party to that bankruptcy case at all.
So they paid over doing nothing?
You could say that.
Okay. I wonder if that was true.
Kenny?
Julie, I want to ask you a question. How can this town move forward with a school or municipal building or a senior center? I understand we're in very much trouble, but how can we move forward with these things without raising some taxes? How can we do this? I understand there's a lot of people in town that are hurting and all that, but without money, you can't do these things. How do you propose we do this?
I propose that we look at our budgets, we have our department heads look at our budgets and look for ways to trim. That's what I propose.
I mean, about as far as financing these other projects.
As far as financing these other projects, we have to take a really good look at what our debt is and how it's scheduled.
Well, we're on a time limit right now for that school, for instance, to get the reimbursement. Now, I think it would be very foolish to throw that away at this point when they're going to give us 60% from the state to build this new school. What happens if we don't go forward with that?
52.
I don't know what will happen if we don't go forward with that. I know it needs to be looked at seriously. The feasibility study, the $550,000 that was voted for the feasibility study for the school project, was voted and passed. It wasn't a slam dunk. It wasn't a huge, victory. It passed narrowly, but it did pass. That passed because we had land that was free. Okay, we had the Brooks property that the school had received from the Brooks. We had it in deed. We never did any research on the property when I was on school committee. It just stayed there, and we had a 10-year agreement to try to build a school at that point in time. All right? That property was looked at and found to be sufficient. All right? The reason why that feasibility study passed was because we had land that was at no cost to the town. If we had to go out and purchase land, I'm not sure that that feasibility study question would have passed. It doesn't negate the problem that we need a new facility for our students in the elementary school, and it's not a regional elementary school, it's a Templeton Elementary School.
Julie, we have no industry in this town, and I thought it odd that they would talk about having the land that used to belong to Fusel, right next to Route 2, to put that 50 acres into a place for a school, because that's pretty much, as far as I can see, the only commercial area we could possibly have to get anything in town.
There is pros and cons to looking at that piece of property. I've been on the school building committee for a while as well. They've done requests for proposals, numerous requests for proposals. And the con is taking that off the tax roll forever and ever, not developing it. Is prime commercial real estate.
And then another thing, I heard somebody talking Saturday that our superintendent is a very nice lady. I've met her. I like her a lot. But I heard that she wasn't really willing to look at any other alternative but building a new school. Now, this lady comes from Newton. There aren't any empty houses in Newton. There are people in Newton have money. I think she's out of touch with our area and the reality of the people that live here. Food is going up. Fuel is going up. Every time, the older people must be having a horrendous time. I think that if somebody asked me, I'd say, sit down and make a plan. More than one plan, and let the people vote. I think that no one, I don't care who it is, can take our voice away. A lot of people can't go to town meeting. The elderly can't do that. They can't see at night. They can't drive at night. But when you have a big dollar issue, I think it should be a vote. Not just a town meeting, passing by town meeting. I don't think that was fair.
Okay.
Kate?
Yeah, follow up on the school issue is there, do you believe that there is some alternative plan that could be developed that would either include the existing schools, that that you could do without a new school, or is there some third alternative plan? I mean, and I guess the final thing is, do you believe that the town needs a new school? And if you do believe that we need new educational facilities, besides building the new elementary school, what else, what other options are there?
I'm not going to speak for the elementary school building committee, but I believe that there are other options that were mentioned at a school building committee meeting. I believe Bill Claybach, the director of buildings and grounds for the school district, came up with a plan that he thought it might be feasible to build on the footprint at Templeton Center, okay, a multi-story building. That has been one option that was floated. We haven't met as a committee for a number of months, so I'm not sure what other proposals may come forward. But I think Bev McGanowitz is correct that we need to come up with more than one option, more than one, this is what it has to be, it's do or die, because if it's do or die and it's a huge price tag, I don't believe it will be successful. And then what are we going to do with the kids in the schools? The roofs at Templeton Center have not fixed themselves.
Julie, would you just say, I'd like to say one thing, Bev. Would you tell her how much work that we've done, the different options we've gone through already to find a place for the school, and we've looked at every place in town.
Right.
This ain't like the first place we've looked at.
No, it isn't. It's been a long process. The problem is when you go out for an RFP, request for proposal for land, people know you're doing an RFP for the land, and then you get a price. People, submit their land and their proposals, and they're inflated. You just look at the assessed values versus the proposed values, and they're up, $500,000. It's very hard to go to the taxpayers and ask them to purchase a piece of overpriced land. I don't know how to do that.
Any other questions? So,
everybody keeps saying that the town people voted for 252 Baldwinville Road. 118 people signed in at that third night of the town meeting, May 17th, 2010. That Article 64 passed at 10:24 p.m. I'd like to really know how many of those 118 people. And I have a problem with the unanimous, because I know of at least 4 people. One of them got called on the carpet by a selectman the following day for not voting for that article. And, you know, and as far as let's raise our taxes, if Mr. O'Brien would like that, to raise our taxes, why did he come in my office complaining about his?
I didn't complain about the taxes, I complained about the valuation.
Jennings, you're out of order.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Julie, good luck.